Right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. So, 8 months ago, it was the highest of highs for the Philadelphia Eagles as they dominated the Kansas City Chiefs to win their second Super Bowl in franchise history. But so far this season, that ride has not been as smooth for Philadelphia, especially since they dropped their last two games. Now, we saw the Eagles in week five blow a 14-point fourth quarter lead to the Denver Broncos before they got blown out and embarrassed last Thursday night on the road, courtesy of the New York Giants. So, yes, the Eagles are 4-2. And yes, they are still in that top spot in the NFC East. But the gusto, okay, that this team had last season en route to winning the Super Bowl, it's just not there. Okay. Um, I've always said this, and I think the Eagles are another example of this. When you're the defending champ, regardless of the sport, especially football, you really take everybody's best shot in the following season because you're the litmus test for everybody. And I mean, they've played some close games so far. They've played some good teams so far. And they've really had to gut it out. I look back to week number three, that comeback win that they had over the Rams, I think was a prime example. Um, and getting back to the two recent losses to Denver and then, of course, the Giants. Denver's got a good football team. Okay, Denver's well coached. And, Denver made the playoffs last year. There are a lot of people who feel that Denver can make a Super Bowl run this year. In actuality, before the season started, I said Eagles Broncos in the Super Bowl. Okay, and I'm sticking with it. But nonetheless, you know, that's a big shot in the arm if you're the Broncos to say, hey, we went to the defending champs' backyard and beat them. Okay. And then you've got the Giants, a team that's tired of getting beat up by the Eagles. They're a young team, they're trying to figure it out. And of course, they want to go out there and make a statement. And they did. And yeah, the Super Bowl was 8 months ago. Yeah, everybody is not back from that team. Yes, it's a different team for the Philadelphia Eagles. I get it, but you still have to deal with basically playing 17 Super Bowls during the regular season, and that's what they're finding out right now. Um, the loss, and I said this was going to be a loss, but the loss of offensive coordinator Kellen Moore, who's now the head coach of the Saints, it can't be underscored enough. I mean, we're talking about an Eagles team that had the eighth best offense in the NFL a season ago, and now here through six games this season only Cincinnati and Tennessee, a team that's without their Pro Bowl quarterback in Joe Burrow, and then of course Tennessee, a team that just fired their head coach Brian Callahan. This is the only two teams in the NFL that going into week number seven are averaging less yards per game than Philadelphia. Just think about that for a minute because the Eagles have talent. So I'll say this. Going back to that Super Bowl, we saw Philadelphia boat race and dominate Kansas City. And typically, when you get to the Super Bowl, especially if you're the losing team, whatever the game plan is, a lot of teams try to copy that for the following season. But even though that the Eagles were victorious in that game, I truly do feel that a lot of teams have attempted to copy the game plan that the Chiefs went into that contest with. If you go back, Chiefs defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo basically said, you know what, Saquon Barkley, you're not going to beat us. Jalen Hurts, you are going to have to beat us from the pocket with your arm. And Jalen Hurts did for that game to the tune of being the Super Bowl MVP. But you look at this season, and teams have completely taken Saquon Barkley away. Last year, Saquon had 345 carries for 2,005 yards, 13 rushing touchdowns. Okay, so far this season, 95 carries for just 325 yards. He's yet to have a 100-yard game. And to give you an idea about that, last year, Saquon averaged 5.8 yards per carry. Right now, so far this season, he's averaging 3.4. And Saquon, I feel, okay, is the engine that makes this offense go because it's one of those where it's going to open things up for the Eagles wideouts on the outside, and it's going to give a lot of flow to this offense. Right now, the Eagles offense has zero flow. Saquon hasn't been able to get it going, and of course, the wide receivers, Devonta Smith and AJ Brown, have not been able to get it going. And when you put all of that into a pot, you get a frustrated team, and more importantly, you get two talented wide receivers who are frustrated because they are not getting the football. You ask yourself, should there be some concern for the Eagles? After the loss to Denver, I was going to say not that much, but after the loss against the Giants, I'm going to say absolutely. And this is the reason why. I'm not trying to sound like a hypocrite here, but going into the Denver game, the Eagles were 4 and 0 in spite of the fact that they weren't playing good. Now they're 4 and 2, and clearly they still have not been playing well. Um, Being an optimist, you want to say, okay, does this Eagles team have what it takes to get back to the Super Bowl and win it? Possibly. But I'll tell you like this. Last year they started off 2 and 2. And then they got on that run and then they were off to the races. They only lost one more game for the rest of the year. I think last year a lot of people had something to prove on this Eagles team. It was Saquon Barkley's first year after joining the Eagles after being with the Giants, and he was a man on a mission. Really had an opportunity to break Eric Dickerson's record as the all-time leading rusher. Of course, he sat out the final game of the regular season. You had Kellen Moore, who was in his first year as the Eagles offensive coordinator. You had an Eagles team that was looking to put the meltdown of 2023 behind them, and they did because they really clicked on all cylinders for the most part. When it comes together like that as a team, it is so difficult, you know, to replicate that for a second season. And I think we are seeing that right now with this Philadelphia team. Could there possibly be some of a championship hangover? Possibly. Uh, I just look at this team right now, the chemistry that they had last season as of right now is not there. Can it be developed? Can they pick it up at some point? They're going to have to. You're hearing a lot of finger pointing, guys, questioning, new offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo for the Eagles. It's a lot going on right now. Um, I feel like they're trying to work this thing through and try to work it out on the fly, and it's going to be a work in progress to see what the Eagles can do as the season progresses. So, when it's all said and done, will they be able to regain that gusto? I think there's a possibility. But you look at the Eagles' schedule, and like I said, aside from the fact of my theory, as far as you basically playing 17 Super Bowls the following season, it's not an easy schedule coming up for Philly. You look at it, they're on the road this Sunday in Minnesota against the Vikings. Not going to be an easy game. They then host the Giants in week number 8, a Giants team that's going to come down the turnpike with a lot of confidence after what we just saw last Thursday night. And they want to they're still trying to establish themselves as a young squad, too. The bye week for Philly is in week 9, and it probably couldn't have come at a better time because, again, I think everybody's not on the same page right now. And you look at the likes of AJ Brown. AJ Brown is really frustrated. You could see it. You look at Devonta Smith, and my thought process is after this season, one of them's going to be gone from Philly. That's just my thought process. But looking at the second half of Philly's schedule, they still got to go to Green Bay for Week 10. They've got Detroit at home for Week 11. They get Chicago at home in Week 13. They're at the Chargers for Week 14. Two out of their final three are with Washington, and then sandwiched in between that is a road game the last Sunday of the year in Buffalo, which is never an easy place to play in the cold. So the Philadelphia Eagles definitely have their work cut out for them. And I know people are going to say, well, the buck stops with Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni. It does. This Eagles team does have some injuries at the same time that they're looking to work through. And I feel like if you're Philly, it's not going to be pretty at times this season, but you've got to try to find some cohesion. You have to find a rallying cry, if you will, on this team. This is a veteran squad here. there's leadership on this team. And I think it's going to be up to the leaders of this team to help the Eagles get their ship righted. So I want to see how the Eagles look and how they take the field this Sunday against the Vikings. Most importantly, this offense, because they're not going up against slouches over there with the Minnesota Vikings defense. That's going to make it a little bit tougher for them. And of course, if the Eagles were to lose that game, then it's only going to compound everything that a lot of people have been talking about. Like I said, chemistry is so important in the world of sports, and the chemistry that we saw the Eagles have, the bond, because I felt like they were one of the tightest knit teams in 2024. It just doesn't appear to be there as of yet. Can things change? Absolutely. But it's one of those again. Philly's taking everybody's best punch. They've got to deal with it, but at the same time, they've got to fix some things themselves on offense. So let's see how the next two-thirds of this regular season work out for Philly, and let's see if they can get their mojo back like they had it last year. But folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank each and every one of you for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. And as always, if you like what you heard and saw on this podcast, you know what to do. Just hit that like button as well as subscribing to this channel. Like I always say, it's greatly appreciated. And the same goes for Instagram, where you could check me out at 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge. Also, if you're on Facebook, be sure to check out the Sports Depot 365. And as far as I'm concerned, it's one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. But until next time, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I'm signing off and I'm saying thanks once again for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Be well, everybody.